When we were young, my cousins and I had a bush house at the end of the back garden, just before the garden opened up on the heath. Due to me being a full-time wheelchair user from birth, it was Gran's idea that instead of having a treehouse that had to be climbed, it would be safer and more practical to have a bush house that all U.S. kids could use. Even though we protested greatly, as although I am disabled, I frequently used to climb trees in the local parks and over the heath, with the help of my cousins, obviously. But Gran's word was final, and we never argued with her, as she was a beautiful and lovely matriarch, but also as tough as old. Boots, and very scary when pushed. So with that, we busied ourselves on choosing an appropriate bush for our new play area. On selecting a perfect one, Gran delegated tasks to the older boys to clear the outer area of the bush, and also make a little hollow inside it with pieces of spare wood on the ground to serve as a basic floor so that my little wheelchair could run safely and easily inside it. Gran was reasonably young at the time, and while the boys were doing the heavy work, she arranged us younger ones in getting furniture, supplies, and accessories to make our new play space cozy and comfortable for us all. A year later, our bush house was in full use. In the daytime, us younger ones played in it after school, on weekends and holidays, and in the evenings and nights. It was a place where the older cousins could have some privacy away from the eyes of Gran and Mum to do whatever they did. Our bush house was cozy, though. We got chairs, bean bags, and floor cushions donated by relatives and friends of the family. We also had a small table that we made a tablecloth for, and our Auntie Jay made some pretty curtains that we hung up the best we could. We even had a cupboard where we kept snacks in, and only when the older boys or Mum were there. We were allowed to use the camping stove to heat tinned beans and sausages or pot noodles up and make tea. Gran's bingo friend, Jean, donated a hand. Mean donated a hand. Mun rug. It was shabby and out of date, but we thought it was beautiful. It was slap bang in the middle of the summer holidays, probably in early July when this happened. Elle and I were 7 and G was 11. Our older cousin G's brother A was there earlier, but by 3 o'clock had grown tired of hanging around with us and had gone out with his mates. The three of them were coming back later to make us all dinner on the stove. Elle and I were sitting at the table playing Beggar Your Neighbor with a pack of playing cards that we got from the living room cupboard, and G was sitting in the corner of the bush house on a beanbag reading The Secret Garden for the third time. It was just another normal at-home day. Nothing unusual or odd occurred till around 4, when we all heard a sound that was at odds with the peaceful scene. It was between a growl, an owl's hoot, and a man mumbling. We weren't particularly outdoorsy kids, being born and raised in the outskirts of urban London. But being bright little girls, we all knew that owls are nocturnal creatures, and the accompanying sounds that were mixed with the hoots didn't come from the same bird. The weird sounds were joined by a furtive and stealthy rustling coming from the back of the bush house. Actually, it was really near to where G was sitting, and she jumped up, stifling a scream by covering her mouth with her hands. We also saw a dark dog-like size shape through the dense foliage of the back of the bush house, which incidentally led straight onto the beginning of the heath, as I said earlier. The strangest thing about this figure was that it was very present, but rather ethereal, almost as if the figure was attempting to hide intentionally. Also, throughout this period, there were no other natural sounds. No bird song, no insect sounds, and no background human noise. Being right in the center of a council estate, you could always hear people talking. Cars revving and dogs barking, all the regular noises of urban community living. But, at that time, was as if the entire world had paused, and us three were the only ones conscious and present, along with the only ones conscious and present, along with the mysterious figure. We didn't know what to do, but we gathered together and both G and L took one handle of my wheelchair and pulled me back out of our bush house, not taking our eyes off the translucent figure as we went. When we were free from the bush house and close enough to home for us to feel out of danger and safe, we just looked at each other very doubtfully. We were crapping ourselves. G said suddenly, "Stay here, don't move or speak." She ran to the garden shed and climbed up the side to the mangy-rotting roof. I completely lost it, letting out a squeal of utter fear. Quick-witted as usual, Elle put her hand over my mouth and hushed me. Elle and I watched while G looked over the hedgerow, which divided our back garden from the beginning of the heath. From our position, her face was clearly visible. G's expression was a mixture of confusion, surprise, and fright, and her pretty brown eyes looked troubled. We waited for G to come back to us before asking her in earnest what she saw. She didn't answer straight away, but when she did, she said, "It was so strange. I didn't see anything, no dogs, no other animals." She paused, her young mind trying to summon the words to explain what she witnessed. There was a man. I saw the back of him walking away towards the iron fence. My 7-year-old's mind found it hard to comprehend what G was saying, and one look at Elle told me she was experiencing the same. We both said together, "What man, G? What did he look like?" G sighed, biting her lip, a habit that she still has today when she is anxious, worried, or trying to explain something tricky or difficult. "Lo, I didn't see him properly. His face and all that, I only saw his back. He did have really long, scruffy hair, though." Her eyes wandered over nervously to the end of the garden leading out to the very public heath. Elle and I both followed G's gaze. We all shuddered. Nobody spoke for ages. For a long time we sat in silence, G and Elle sitting on the back step and me in my wheelchair alongside them. Suddenly, I noticed something and exclaimed to the others, "Everything is back to normal. Listen!" We all listened. The regular everyday noises had returned. The world appeared to have resumed business as usual. A while later, A and his 2 mates came back, and sensing some tension from us, they asked us what was up. We did tell them everything, and 2 of them ran out to the back to have a look around. They were gone for about 45 minutes. When they returned, they said they didn't see anything. No strange man. No animals, nothing unusual or dodgy at all. We spent the rest of the day hanging out with the boys, eating dinner in the bush house, and later watching films and eating junk food. We didn't tell Mum about the experience until a few years back, long after we were grown, and we still don't know or can't explain what happened that day. I couldn't believe my luck when I stumbled upon a job opening at the pizza place nestled on the outskirts of my quiet town. I muttered to myself, I'd been searching for employment for an agonizing month, having been unceremoniously dismissed by my previous boss for a minor slip-up. It stung. My friend Jacob, my steadfast ally in the job hunt, came to my rescue. He sent me a link to a job listing at Greta's pizza place. The job description intrigued me. "Hello, I'm Greta, the owner and manager of this quaint eatery. I've managed just fine on my own, but age has a way of catching up. As I grow older, I could use an extra hand. Our eatery is tucked away on the outskirts and caters to late-night cravings, opening its doors at 9 p.m. I advise applicants living afar to consider relocating. Thank you. I wasted no time and submitted my application. An hour later, a message landed in my inbox. Application approved. I made it there punctually at 8, an hour before the restaurant's nightly unveiling. It was quite the trek from my town, a solid 28 miles with nothing but thick woods surrounding it. Greta herself arrived, greeting me warmly with a firm handshake. She ushered me inside her cozy office and began explaining my responsibilities. I dove into work that very day, taking my first pizza order. However, something seemed amiss in her kitchen. Ingredients were scarce. I was about to contact her when she summoned me. I entered her office to find her facing away from me. I started, "Mom, where are?" But she swiftly interrupted. "Shh. Listen to me, young man." With an enigmatic turn, she revealed herself completely, sitting there unclothed. My instinct was to leave, but she mystically locked the door with a mere gesture. Then she said, "Right here, right now, have sex with me." I initially refused, but she persisted. My refusals continued. Growing impatient with my resistance, she compelled me to face the mirror behind me. A shiver ran down my spine as I beheld a red-eyed witch in the reflection. It was Greta, her true self. I was paralyzed with fear. I had no choice but to yield. What followed was nothing short of shocking. Immediately after sex, she gave birth, an event both perplexing and disconcerting. She birthed doughs, not a baby, but a mass of dough. Countless balls of it, and she instructed me to bake them in the oven. A customer arrived, and I served him the pizza. Greta handed me a note bearing the ominous message. "Jacob helped me well this time as well." Diana was the one to whom I had proposed, my heart brimming with anticipation for her response. However, days turned into weeks without a single word from her. Weeks later, I reached out to her again, only to receive a heart-wrenching no, accompanied by the words, "Don't ever message me again." Confronted with such a harsh rejection, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions beyond mere anger. One midnight, I entered her room, where she had lived in solitude. There, I noticed a tattoo on her wrist that read, Peter, the name of her boyfriend. Overwhelmed by my emotions, I committed a heinous and ruthless act, ending her life just as she had ended my hopes. Guilt consumed me afterward, the weight of my actions hitting me with full force. I should have exercised restraint, practiced patience, or made one more attempt, but like an arrow once released, there was no retrieving it. Diana's demise was my responsibility, and no amount of remorse could undo it. My anger found its target in my own arm, the very arm that had robbed her of life. With my right hand, I had suffocated her, while my left hand had pinned her down. In a moment of resolution, I chose to sever my right arm, a symbolic act of penance, though woefully inadequate. A day later, Diana visited me in my sleep. On another day, I sat in the dining area with my cousin. Suddenly, my remaining right arm throbbed with pain. While my cousin remained engrossed in her phone, my arm underwent a transformation, growing rapidly. It led me to the kitchen, where it seized a knife and ended my cousin's life. I was powerless against its control. Amidst my sobs, it compelled me to a mirror in the hallway. There, it repeatedly stabbed me in the chest, and all I could see was the wrist bearing the name Peter